Imagine your illustration portfolio is a fishing net, and with that net you're trying to catch fish, clients. You might have an idea of what kind of fish your net is going to be good at catching, and you probably know which fish you want to catch with your net, let's say that's cod. But you haven't tested out your net in the ocean yet, so you'd go where there are lots of different kinds of fish, throw your net out there and see what you can catch. If you find out that you're actually catching more tuna than cod, then you could take your boat to an area where there's more tuna. You know your net is good at catching them, so with the same amount of work, you could catch more fish. That is a very smart way to test out your fishing net. But if you made the choice from the start that your net is a cod net, and you only tried to catch cod in an area where only cod live, you're going to have a hard time catching fish, and you might never discover that your cod net is actually a tuna net. This is a positioning problem, and that's what we're talking about today. No more fish, don't worry. If you position your portfolio as a children's book portfolio, for example, from the start, and you don't try to catch anything else, you won't ever find out if you could be really good at catching packaging clients or advertising clients or any other kind of client. So developing a portfolio with a broad appeal at the start of your career is the best way to keep your options open and catch more clients until you see patterns in what clients want from you. Then you can position yourself as a specialist in a certain area of the industry, and you'll have the experience to back it up. I'm James, an illustration agent, and I help illustrators just like you build their careers. And I'm going to introduce you to a couple of concepts in this video: supply and demand and positioning. If supply and demand is the problem, then positioning is the solution. When there are more illustrators than there are freelance jobs to go around, some people will be busy with work and some won't. So how can you make sure you're one of the busy ones? The way I see it, there are two ways. You've got to be really good at what you do, or you've got to be different from everyone else out there. Ideally, both. In any competitive field, the best jobs and opportunities are limited. Not every athlete gets to compete in the Olympics, for example. You've got to be the best. And best is easy to measure if you're a swimmer or a long jumper. Creative pursuits are a little different though. The best illustrator or the best musician or comedian or actor is subjective. Whoever I think the best illustrator in the world is not going to be the same as who you think the best is. Artists are measured on taste and trends and emotions. When you look at popular musicians in the charts now, are they the best musicians in the world? Hell no. But they have something else that sets them apart from the crowd. They're individuals, they have unique characters and quirks, they have style and they show their interests. I'm not a football fan, so I could be wrong, but it's hard for me to imagine a footballer who's quirky and unique and flamboyant. Who is the Lady Gaga of football, or the Snoop Dogg of lawyers, or the David Bowie of doctors? It doesn't work. In those roles, you have to fit in. In the creative world, you have to stand out. You don't have to be the best to make it as an illustrator, but being unique and memorable and interesting is going to help you attract more clients. This is where supply and demand come into play. Supply and demand is a fundamental economic concept that applies to just about every product or service. Don't fall asleep, because it applies to illustrators too. When a lot of illustrators are competing over a limited number of projects, the supply is high and the demand is lower than the supply, which means there's a lot of competition for those top jobs. And there's nothing new or unique about that. If you go back before email, clients would mostly be limited to working with local artists they had easy access to, and artists would need to live in places where there were the most clients, in big cities. Now, any client in the world can work with any artist from anywhere. But an artist can also, in theory, work with any client around the world. It was competitive then and it's competitive now, but the scale has massively increased. Supply and demand also affects prices. When the demand is low and the supply is high, prices get lower because a client can get those services very easily from lots of different places. Take onions, for example. They grow pretty much anywhere. They're always the same, they're easy to find, and the price is very low. So if you work in a style that lots of other illustrators can do, let's call it an onion style, and clients can find it anywhere, you can't charge a lot for it because they can simply go elsewhere and get it cheaper. When the demand is high and the supply is low, prices are much higher because clients want whatever it is really badly, and it's hard to get, so they're willing to pay more. For example, Rolex watches. Their limited editions sell for up into the hundreds of thousands because they don't make many of them, and people are on waiting lists to even get a chance of buying them. An illustrator who works in a style that is really universally popular and in high demand can only take on a limited number of projects because they're only one person, so their prices can be higher. Let's call that a Rolex style. The Onion styles are oversaturated. There's loads of people doing the same thing and competing for work at ever decreasing prices. They struggle to find consistent work and struggle to make a living. For artists who have a Rolex style, they're busy all the time and they've got clients queuing up to work with them, and they make good money and they have to turn a lot of work down. But there's a third way here. What about companies that make products that aren't particularly limited, but they manage to create enormous buzz and demand for a product by positioning it as a desirable status symbol? They can charge high prices and people will still pay for them, and even queue up to be the first to buy them. I'm thinking Air Jordans, Teslas, pretty much anything Apple makes, Tiffany jewelry, Patagonia clothing. Are these the best products in their class? Not necessarily. Apple products are very, very good, but if you're a Windows or Android user, then they're not the best. It's subjective. These brands are enormously successful because they have positioned themselves as desirable, exciting, and unique. They tug on that emotional lever and make their customers want whatever they produce, whether or not they need it. So what is positioning? It's a marketing concept that refers to how you can stand out to a well-defined set of clients. And it's something that happens once you've got a bit of experience and you know what clients want from you. So let's break that down. First of all, you define the kind of client that you want to work for. Maybe it's packaging for high-end beauty brands, for example. Then over time, you develop a style that is perfect for that kind of client. And you tell people through your style and through your portfolio and your communications and your personal brand that you do this kind of work for that kind of client. You set the context of being a high-end illustrator for high-end brands, and you put yourself in the position of being the go-to illustrator for those kinds of clients. Obviously, there's still going to be competition for those jobs, but because you've defined it so well and made it clear that this is what you do, this is who you do it for, and this is what you're good at, you're no longer competing with everybody. You're on a small list of specialists that those clients will consider for every project. Think about your favorite illustrators, the ones who you follow on Instagram or whose work you admire. Chances are, they're not just talented, they've also positioned themselves really well. They found their niche, they've developed a distinct style, and they communicated clearly who they are and what they offer. That didn't happen by accident. They've strategically positioned themselves to attract the clients and projects they love. How many times have you typed into Google or YouTube, best product for purpose? Could be best app for productivity or best camera lens for YouTube. I actually did that earlier today. Could be best case for iPhone or best career guide for new illustrators. There's a whole industry of bloggers and YouTubers doing reviews on every product imaginable, and companies that make those products want to be on those lists of being the best product for that specific purpose, because that's how they stand out from the crowd. They position the product specifically to compete in very specialized areas. So when some art director searches for the best illustrator for high-end beauty packaging, you want to be on that list, even if the list is simply the first page of Google. When you do position yourself and you specialize in high-end packaging for high-end brands, that sets off a powerful set of assumptions in your client's mind about the quality they can expect from you, what you're good at, who your competitors are, what are the brands you might have worked for, and how expensive you are. If those clients look at the portfolio of a generalist illustrator, they're asking questions like, what is this? Is this right for us? What does this artist do? What are they good at? When you've positioned yourself well, all those questions are already answered, and they can pay attention to the details of your work, and they already know that you're a good fit for the kind of work they do. I spoke with an illustrator a couple of months ago, Holly Dunn, who is a very skilled book cover designer. If you want to see an example of an artist positioning themselves really well, go check her out on Instagram at Holly Dunn Design or on her website hollydundesign.com. I'll put links in the description. First of all, her portfolio is very specialized for decorative book covers. Her bio says, illustrated book covers for serious authors. She's defined the audience and she tells them exactly what she can do for them. Not only that though, she has written guides, video content, and genuinely interesting and funny posts for that audience of indie authors. Now, her style isn't going to be right for every indie author out there, but as an indie author myself, I look at how Holly has positioned herself, and I can clearly see that she knows what she's talking about, and I would be in good hands if I were to work with her. So although I'm sure Holly could apply her skills to other kinds of projects quite easily, and I'm sure she has in the past, she's now chosen to be an expert in this one particular area. So we understand that working in a style or being an illustrator where there is a high supply and low demand is less than ideal. You're an onion in a supermarket. It's going to be really hard to stand out. People will still check the quality as at an acceptable standard, but they're not going to pay extra for the best onion. They'll just pick a decent one from the big bucket of onions. If you position yourself in an area of the industry where there are less people doing what you're doing, less supply, less competition, you're no longer competing with every other illustrator. You're in a smaller pool of go-to artists for that specialism. You're not just another onion. You're a top choice for specific clients who value your unique skills. You've got a better chance of staying busy, and you've got a better chance of being able to charge higher prices. It seems counterintuitive because once you specialize, you are cutting out certain types of clients. But as they say, the riches are in the niches. Holly Dunn probably won't be working with tech clients anytime soon, but she ain't going to run out of book covers to illustrate. And the clients you ultimately steer yourself away from are going to be the clients you're not all that interested in working with anyway. So here are some action steps if you feel like you're ready to position yourself and niche down. Step 1. Define that niche. What kind of work are you really good at? What kind of clients do you enjoy working with the most? What clients value your style the most? And what clients pay you well for your skills? Step 2. Research that market. What are those clients hiring illustrators for on a regular basis? What do they like and what do they need? What are they looking for in an illustrator? Step 3. Develop and refine your style. If you know what those clients are looking for, make sure you've got those things in your portfolio. Apply your style to those projects that your ideal client wants. Don't do it the same way someone else is doing it. Put your own unique stamp on it. Stand out, don't fit in. Step 4. Communicate your positioning. Use your portfolio website and your social media to clearly communicate what your area of expertise is. Make sure your branding reflects that too and will appeal to your target audience. It's okay at this point if your portfolio and your branding doesn't appeal to certain types of clients, because they're not the kind of clients you want. Make it the perfect portfolio for the clients you do want. By positioning yourself strategically when the time is right, you become a unique, sought-after, and memorable specialist. This will make you more appealing to the right kinds of clients and will allow you to take your freelancing career to a whole new level. Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, you might also like this video about how to start building your portfolio and how it will evolve over time. See you next time.